And a very happy Monday to you at 12:06 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang is back in the state of California.
John, I now have a brand new use for my favorite drop from KTVU's Henry Lee.
It's happened yet again.
PG&E asked for another rate increase.
And my guess is they'll get it because they always do.
It's happened yet again.
And it also means they won't be spending any money fixing their equipment.
It's happened yet again.
You know, this is why the kids have to learn about history in school, because it tends to repeat itself. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Randy, we're back. We're glad to have you back in California. No flight cancellations, no flight delays. You were here safe and sound.
I got to tell you, though, it was touch and go for a minute. Have you ever flown into that American Eagle terminal in LAX, the tiny little one you have to take a bus to?
Oh, yeah. I think it's somewhere in El Segundo, isn't it?
I had to wait 30 minutes after getting off a plane to stand in line to get on a bus just to get to the main LAX. And then, because of the construction on the 405, my Lyft ride home was $200 and took an hour and a half.
Just so you know, Janice Hahn is quite fond of the person behind the wheel.
She does love the bus driver.
I love the bus driver.
What's the deal with Ubers and Lyfts suddenly exploding in price from LAX? Because you were like the third person who has told me this in about a week or two.
Because of this, I'm going to make sure I never fly back on a Sunday evening again, because it was awful. Part of it has got to be traffic, but also I guess they do surge pricing, and, you know, no one wants to go to that hell LA exit, so you got to pay for black, and the prices are so unbelievably expensive. But what else are you going to do? You're stuck. You're screwed.
The person I talked to said they just went old school and took a taxi cab, and you don't have to go to the Uber lot if you do that. And there is no such thing as surge pricing on taxis. So that's what they did.
Wow. I got to think about that next time, because all the money that I saved by not going to Burbank for this flight and going to LAX, I lost in that ride home.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. So yesterday was the big No Kings protests all over the country. And I drove by one in my area, and it was very similar to the last one, meaning everyone there looked like they were over the age of 75. Now, that could be a function of where I live, or it just could be a function of who's showing up to these rallies. But every person I saw there looked like Bob Vila with a ponytail. And that's just the women. And the litany of anger, the litany of, I guess, disputes that they had with the White House and with President Donald Trump just ran the gamut. I saw the trans flag out there. I saw the Palestinian flag out there. They were very concerned that there wouldn't be any more Democratic elections in California, despite the fact that they also had Yes on 50 signs with them. They seemed upset that ICE was deporting people, the whole thing. And one of those rallies that took place was not just in my neighborhood, but in Northern California, where former Speaker of the House and candidate for re-election to Congress, Nancy Pelosi, was there, where they gave her a prop. I guess she's now getting in on Carrot Top's action, and she's doing prop comedy. And they gave her a child's crown, a toy crown, like you would give to a 5-year-old girl on their birthday. And they said, all right, Nancy, here's what you have to do. You have to take this crown and you have to break it, because there are no kings and apparently no queens left in the United States of America. So break this crown. And I don't know how many times they had to do a take on this, but it was spliced when they put the video up there, where she finally was able to successfully break the child's toy. And all of this leads to the question, okay, she's rich, she's 85 years old. What the hell is she doing showing up to these rallies and running for re-election to Congress where a rich lady has to put herself on an airplane every single week to go to Washington, D.C., to vote on legislation, write legislation, give speeches, raise money, and then get back on the plane and come back to California to campaign so that she doesn't lose re-election. And you say to yourself, well, it's because she represents a very safe district. San Francisco is about as democratic as big cities get in the United States. No Republican is going to beat her. And while that statement is true, that doesn't necessarily mean that she won't lose re-election. Because we know that a former aide to New York Congresswoman AOC is running against Nancy Pelosi from the left. And now it looks like, Randy, she's going to have yet another challenger who is hoping to unseat her, also from the left.
California State Senator Scott Wiener is rumored to finally be running against Nancy Pelosi. Here is the only Scott Wiener drop that I have on my wall.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And gay guys do know how to have fun, so we'll be okay.
But the question is, do they get their wig snatched?
Let's hear about Scott Wiener and his potential run against Nancy Pelosi to represent San Francisco in Congress. Here is ABC 7 in the Bay.
A Friday firestorm in the race to
Friday firestorm. Great alliteration.
Not quite at Mark Brown's level, though.
A Friday firestorm in the race to potentially replace one of the most powerful women in U.S. history, as State Senator Scott Wiener is reportedly preparing to run against Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi.
I don't think anybody's really imagined seriously that she was going to lose her seat anytime over the last few decades. But this does seem to be kind of the weakest point of her candidacy. All of the older...
She'll still bite everyone's head off.
Oh, can you imagine what she's going to do to this guy the moment he declares?
It's not going to go well for Scotty.
Figures in the Democratic Party or long-serving figures in the Democratic Party are really finding themselves vulnerable across the country.
Back in June, Wiener filed to run for Pelosi's seat in 2028, at the time saying he's been clear about his desire to eventually succeed her. The 85-year-old two-time U.S. House Speaker has not said if she'll seek a 21st term in office next year.
She is addicted to the power. That's the only reason she's still doing this. Who wants to be on those flights every week when you're 85?
Power is an aphrodisiac. It's like oysters and dark chocolate.
I'm Shoykat Chakrabarti, and I'm running for Congress against Nancy Pelosi.
But already, progressive newcomer Shoykat Chakrabarti is waging a grassroots war, pitching
That's the AOC guy.
Oh, yes.
pitching himself as the next generation of Democratic leadership.
So I believe we need a movement of people to go into Congress, to take over the Democratic Party and completely change it.
Chakrabarti telling me that he doubts Wiener will snub Pelosi, but adding, quote, regardless, the Democratic Party needs a new kind of leader who is not part of the establishment because the establishment has failed us.
Yeah, I think age is an important factor.
Stop
but
the tape here for a second. That's true. Joe Biden was over the hill. They should have never run him for re-election. Dianne Feinstein died in office. She was out of it for a very long time while she was still there. You look at some of these other people who are in Congress still. That woman from Washington, D.C., Eleanor Holmes Norton, she needs a guy on one arm and a guy on another arm to get her around and keep her from falling on her face. I don't know if you saw this, but Mitch McConnell fell on his face at some point last week because he's over the hill too. But you have to replace them with someone better. It's like what happened with regime change in Iraq. Would it be good to make it so that Saddam Hussein is not in charge of that country? Yes. Do you need to make sure that you replace him with someone better? The answer is also yes. And Scott Wiener is arguably the most destructive voice in all of Sacramento. Whatever is wrong is due north for him. I don't think he's ever been on the right side of any issue that I've ever paid attention with, including he's picked some really boutique issues to run on. Remember when he was trying to make it so that if you were convicted of statutory rape, which was having sex with a minor, that you wouldn't have to register as a sex offender because he said that was discriminatory.
How about the one where you couldn't be charged with a crime if you knowingly gave someone AIDS?
Who is this supposed to appeal to? Michael Jackson? And he's dead. By the way, I just heard a fantastic Michael Jackson quote this weekend.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready for it?
Get the finger on the dump just in case.
It's like Michael Jackson always says, you know the best part of taking a shower with a 12-year-old? If you slick their hair back, they look 8.
We're starting early this week, aren't we?
We can go back to the tape.
Yeah, I think age is an important factor, but I don't think it's everything. I think folks just want something new and different.
Political analysts say Chakrabarty's campaign might be motivation for Wiener as Pelosi weighs her future.
I imagine a lot of these folks who are jumping these races, again, think they're tapping into this national frustration with the Democratic Party. We're seeing a lot of these folks primaried who are establishment figures. Also, I think there is a hunger for something new and different, if not certainly younger.
In a statement to ABC 7 News, a spokesperson for Pelosi tells us she is, quote, fully focused on her mission to win the yes.
As soon as any politician says the word focused, I don't want to listen to the rest of their statement because they're not answering the question.
In a weird sort of way, this may benefit Nancy Pelosi because think about this. She wants her daughter to succeed her in the Congress, correct?
That's what we've heard for years and years and years.
Okay, but if the election were today, Wiener would beat the daughter. If Wiener jumps the gun and runs against Nancy, Nancy is much stronger than the daughter. So Nancy can beat Wiener and she could damage his reputation and damage his electability for future elections if she really comes at him aggressively. From her point of view, he's doing her a favor because she's setting the daughter up to win that seat.
Fully focused on her mission to win the Yes on 50 special election in California on November 4th. She urges all Californians to join in that mission on the path to Democrats taking back the House. A spokesperson for Senator Wiener declined to comment, but our partners at the San Francisco Standard, who first reported this story, are reporting that Wiener is expected to launch a campaign for Pelosi's seat as soon as next week.
Yeah, there are whispers that he's already fundraising for this thing, and the announcement's going to be any day now.
Here's the thing. A lot of these people regard local office as being in the minor leagues, in part because they just don't have any interest in those subjects. We talk about this on this program all the time. A lot of these people have very strong opinions about Donald Trump, about abortion, about Ukraine, about a lot of these issues that are not regarded as state and local issues. But not everyone can be a member of Congress. Not everyone can be a member of the cabinet. So you go get elected to some state or local office and you spend all of your time talking about these issues, but you cannot impact them because that doesn't fall under the umbrella of your office. So he regards himself as being wasted in the minor leagues, while a geriatric woman is selfishly occupying a seat that would otherwise go to him. He, for a long time, realized he just had to wait until she retired before he could win that seat, because she is a legend in San Francisco and she is not easily beatable. She can raise all the money she needs to raise to win re-election. But I think he stewed in his own juices long enough to the point to where he just despises her. And he sees her as the most selfish person on planet Earth, who had any number of opportunities to retire and chose not to. And now he sees her as in the way. So he's decided that instead of being chivalrous and waiting for her to go out on her own terms, that he just has to run her over.
Do you know Scott Wiener is 55?
He's like Elizabeth Warren, man. I don't know what the hell those two do at night. I know Elizabeth Warren says it's cold cream, but he looks like he's in his 30s. He does not look like someone who's in his 50s.
Well, and if he is in his 50s, he certainly doesn't want to wait to get that seat until he's in his 60s and she's in her 90s.
Well, and that's what happens because she's 85 years old, but she's still moving around the country. She's still attending rallies. You still see her in Washington, D.C. voting on things. It's not like Feinstein at the end when you knew she wasn't going to be around for another term. If Nancy Pelosi wants to, and if her health holds up, she could be there for 3, 4, 5 more terms if she's willing to do it into her 90s. And I think he realizes that now. I think he is now of the belief that she's never going to retire. She's just going to die in office. And if she's going to die in office, she could be there until she's 100. And then there's going to be someone who's coming through the system who is younger than him and more relevant than him because he's in his last term in the state Senate. He's going to term out. He can't stay there forever. She could stay in Congress forever. He can't stay in the state legislature forever, and there's nowhere for him to go. So I guess from his vantage point, it's now or never, and he's decided that he's going to try to take out the queen. I know this weekend was the No Kings protest, but Scott Wiener is going to be the guy going for the crown.
We love everybody.
It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is a telephone number. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you missed a show from last week and you want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube. You can get the free KABC app, the free KSFO app, the KMJ Now app, because we do an hour there Saturdays at 2. So many different ways to listen live to our radio stations, download all the podcasts. And if you've listened to all that content already and you're caught up and you got nothing else to listen to, well...
Oh, shucks.
Coming up next, we'll give you an update on Prop 50. Don't you go anywhere. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Randy, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Jagged Edge to the Toyota Arena on November 6th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time focusing on Proposition 50 on this program, and on Monday, a week from today, in Orange County, I'm going to be at a No on 50 rally. We'll have more details on that coming up later on. But right now, people are voting. Your ballots are in the mail. If you haven't voted yet, you should fill out your ballot and turn it in. I did that last week. I voted no on Prop 50, put it in the mail, and received a notice from the Secretary of State's office that my vote was received and counted. And that's a very good thing, because if there's something wrong with your signature or you forgot to fill something out, they'll let you know and give you an opportunity to go fix it. So if you haven't voted yet, I highly recommend doing so. And right now, Randy, one of the things that people are focusing on is the air war. There is a lot of money being spent on television and radio advertisements, on direct mail that's showing up in your mailbox on a daily basis. But the money isn't endless, and one side has more of a clear advantage than the other.
Let's check where the money is being spent on Prop 50. Here's a report from KPIX in the Bay.
Meantime, we are less than 3 weeks out from the California special election that could reshape the balance of power in Congress. So on November 4th, Californians will vote on Prop 50, which would give the state legislature, instead of the current independent committee, the power to redraw House districts.
And they swear it's temporary.
Oh, yes. That independent commission will be back at the beginning of the next decade. Just count on it.
So you should have already received your ballot in the mail, but that's probably not the only thing you've gotten related to Prop 50. I'm talking about flyers in the mail, fundraising text messages. Have you gotten those? And commercials running all day on.
You know what really bothers me? It doesn't matter who sends them. It doesn't matter how many times you say stop. They keep sending you text messages for everything, including both sides of Prop 50.
Yeah, I'm over the text messages. Just stop it with that.
And how many times how many people actually believe when the text says, hey, it's Gavin Newsom here?
It's never Gavin Newsom, not even on his very own X feed. It's the theater kids that work for him.
And commercials running all day on TV. It's already one of the most expensive races in state history.
Just wait till we have some more gambling measures next year.
Oh, my God, that's going to break every record.
But who's funding these campaigns? We asked our Lauren Toms to follow the money.
It's a statewide ballot measure that's not only triggering a special election, but Prop 50 is drawing eye-popping sums of money. And for San Francisco voter Renee Block, it's not about the dollars behind it, but the mission he says it represents.
No House, no Senate, no White House, no courts. This is our last chance.
Every weekend, he's hitting
We're really hitting the hyperbole hard to start this piece, aren't we?
You know what I think it is? After driving by the No Kings protest and seeing everyone there over the age of 75 and hearing this guy being interviewed by the news, they're all saying the same thing. They believe this is an end to democracy, despite the fact that they're campaigning for a ballot initiative, which is a weird thing to do if you're in a dictatorship. But anyway, I digress. You look at the demographics of who watches cable news, and I think that's who you saw out there. I think these protests and these people being interviewed by the news, they're people that just sit around and watch, I don't know, MSNBC or CNN all day, and they get whipped up into a frenzy, and this is what they do for fun.
Well, and typically the under 50 crowd has something else to do on a Saturday afternoon, brunch.
Every weekend, he's hitting the pavement from the Mission to the Sunset, trying to cut through the flood of advertising and political noise.
And people are confused.
I don't know. If there's one thing that might bother me more than the mailers, it's people knocking on my door to talk about a ballot initiative.
I can't tell you the last time that's happened. Now, it may be because I live in an HOA now, and I traded that set of problems in for an entirely new set of problems. But I haven't had anyone knock on my door over politics in a very long time.
When there was the special election in LA City Council District 6, when Nuri Martinez had to resign because of, this.
Why are people with us?
All of the candidates in that special election were walking around my neighborhood, and I didn't want to talk to any of them, so I would pretend I wasn't home. In retrospect, I could have met Imelda Padilla in person and heard that brilliance before anybody else.
Street pavements that are cooler.
Could you imagine what that kind of one-on-one conversation would produce?
Broken windy theory.
But let me just be clear. She was the best out of the ones that were running in that race by far.
What does that say about them?
And people are confused, and if they stay home or if they don't vote for the proposition, we can lose this opportunity.
As his T-shirt states, Block plans to vote yes on Prop 50, the proposal to temporarily redraw California's congressional map to add 5 Democratic-leaning seats in the House and boost Democrats' chances to flip control of Congress. But behind the grassroots effort is a tidal wave of cash. State campaign finance reports show spending at nearly $215 million.
This is like for a 2-month campaign.
That is totally insane. Think about this for a second. $215 million. Not that long ago, you could buy a professional sports franchise for that. You go back
Steve
to the
Ballmer
80s?
kind of ruined that one.
Yeah, he did. Thanks, Steve.
State campaign finance reports show spending at nearly $215 million, $134 million for and $78 million against, passing spending records for the rideshare Proposition 22 in 2020 and the 2022 gambling fights, Props 26 and 27, which shattered records.
Those were the best because you had both sides telling you no on this, no on this, no on that. We think their side is crooked. No, we think their side is crooked. And so everyone rejected every ballot measure that had anything to do with sports gambling in 2022.
So what's the spending at here now? If you add the yes and the no side together, over 300?
It's over 200. It's 130 with the yes side and about 70 with the no side.
Okay, so $200 million over Proposition 50. You might be right. If they put another sports gambling initiative on the ballot, we could spend $600, $700 million on that.
All right, we're making budget next year.
At over $450 million combined.
And California ballot measure elections are basically the most expensive elections in the United States, not called a presidential election.
Sonoma State political expert David McEwen says the final price tag, including the cost of the special election and legal challenges to come, could top $500 million.
This is going to be maybe not.
Yeah, just to run the election, to send out all those ballots and count them, that's $250 million.
For a state that's broke.
This is going to be maybe not the most expensive ballot measure in California history, but it'll at least be number 2 and has the potential to be number 1. Why that's important is this is a...
And no, I am too old now to use those as drops.
And has the potential to be number 1. Why that's important is this is a setup for the 2026 midterms.
Most of the yes side cash is flowing from national Democratic groups, including the House Majority PAC and labor unions, viewing Prop 50 as a test run for the 2026 midterms.
How much money is Cecily given to Yes on 50?
Probably a ton.
And I want you to be all the way pissed off.
The no side is largely backed by the Republican-leaning Congressional Leadership Fund and conservative donors like Charles Munger Jr., but notably missing so far is any money from the Trump political committees.
Proposition 50 threatens what voters built.
Even
who is the political consultant that says violins get your message across? Because I'm not buying it.
All of them. Every time we play an ad, there's violins.
Proposition 50 threatens what voters built.
Even without such funding,
I didn't even hear what the message was. All I heard was that viola.
Proposition 50 threatens what voters built.
Even without such funding, Republicans in the state like Congressman Kevin Kiley argue the new map takes away their representation.
I think it'll only lead to less bipartisanship, less common ground, and even greater division in this country.
And for all the millions spent on airwaves and mail.
And of course, he has written a law that Congress refuses to hear that would outlaw all of this in every state. But that's where we are right now.
Well, and this is why what Newsom is doing is not only problematic for people like Kevin Kiley, but it caused a chain reaction. Had they just stopped after New York did what they did, New York redistricted after the census, and it gave Democrats 3 more seats. So then Texas said, all right, we're going to do the same thing, and they redrew their lines. It could have stopped right then and had been one Democratic state, one Republican state, and it would have been over. But then Newsom decided that this would be an opportunity to present himself as a national figure. And he said California would be all in too. Well, fine. That motivated Indiana and Missouri and Florida and Utah and all of these other states to redraw their lines. And the problem for the Democrats is they had no place to go because they already got the juice out of the squeeze. They already drew Massachusetts into a map that resulted in 0 Republican seats. Same thing with Maine, same thing with Connecticut, same thing with all of those northeastern states. Well, you just run out of real estate if this is the battle that you decide to engage in, and that's what happened to the Democrats. So now if all of these states that are talking about redrawing their lines do it, the Republicans will now benefit by double digits.
And for all the millions spent on airwaves and mailboxes, volunteers like Renee are investing what he says money can't buy.
People that contribute to understand that this is our last chance to preserve democracy.
So nobody responds to your texts when you ask if they want to go out to lunch on a Saturday?
As we head toward Election Day, we'll stay on top of this important issue. Next week, we'll be looking at how these new district lines were drawn.
There you go. There is the latest and all the money that's being spent on Prop 50 for the next 2.5 weeks.
It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Greg writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com with a question. John, in your opinion, if Prop 50 fails, is that the end of Newsom as a presidential candidate?
Yes.
Straight to the point.
If Prop 50 fails and Newsom doesn't get the Democrats more seats out of California, but he motivated all of those other red states into redrawing their maps, Democrats will never forgive him. That'll be the end of him. All right. We have an update for you on U.S. Attorney Bill Assaley's quest to track down where all of the homeless dollars are actually going.
Earlier last week, acting U.S. Attorney Bill Assaley announced federal charges in 2 affordable housing developers that took a whole bunch of homeless money and kept it for themselves. For more, here's NBC4.
Today, federal officials announced charges against 2 L.A. area real estate developers. They're accused of stealing money that was intended to help the homeless. NBC4's Alex Rozier joins us live from downtown L.A., where the feds say these arrests are really just the beginning. Alex?
Yeah, Colleen, and the 2 men, these are 2 separate cases, but both of them are accused of misusing millions of dollars. The feds say they exploited the homeless crisis for their own personal gain.
So how hard is it to get this money?
Well, if you're politically connected, probably not hard.
This morning in Beverly Hills, federal agents arrested Cody Holmes. The 31-year-old is a former CFO of Shangri-La Industries. The U.S. Attorney's Office said this is the link to...
Okay, so that means this guy was in his mid-20s when he got this COVID money for Project Homekey that then he used to have a very lavish lifestyle. Where are the checks and balances as to who applies for these freaking grants?
Did you see someone on social media said, and I forget if it was this one or the other one, that they were the landlord and they rented a home to one of these guys, and the home was used as a party house. They didn't pay rent on the home, and when they tried to evict them, they knew every trick in the book to make the process last as long as possible, and then they sued them.
That sounds very California.
The U.S. Attorney's Office said this is the LinkedIn for Shangri-La, a downtown L.A.-based developer of affordable housing.
There's your first red flag.
Yep.
In court documents, the feds say while serving as the CFO, Holmes submitted fake bank records that helped the company receive nearly $26 million in taxpayer money that was supposed to go toward a homeless housing project in Thousand Oaks.
Even though the developer received all the money from the state, the developer did not complete the construction of the Thousand Oaks project. Instead, our investigation has showed that at least $2.2 million was diverted to pay Mr. Holmes' American Express bill.
Okay, now he's got a lot of points.
Okay, this is going to sound awful, but I'd rather have that money be stolen than to actually be used to put up homeless housing in Thousand Oaks, so we ruin that neighborhood too.
Which includes purchases at luxury retailers. Essentially, he stole the money.
Also today, the feds announced charges against Stephen Taylor, a Brentwood real estate developer, seen here on his website. Taylor faces charges for bank fraud, aggravated identity theft, and money laundering.
I didn't even know there was a charge for aggravated identity theft.
Is there any other way to do it?
In one case, the feds say he lied to a lender and said he was going to renovate to Cheviot Hills property and use it himself. Investigators say that wasn't true.
In truth, Taylor had already contracted to sell the property, which he acquired for only $11 million fraudulently, to Weingart, a homeless housing developer that purchased the property for a whopping $27 million.
So he flipped a property that he wasn't going to use for himself for a $15 million profit of homeless housing money. These people know how to game the system.
Well, and then you wonder why your taxes keep going up. When the money is stolen, there's only one way for it to go.
Akil Davis is with the FBI.
In both of these cases, defendants took advantage of funds allocated to assist some of the most vulnerable people in society. This is not a victimless crime, as the millions of dollars lost could have been used for housing the homeless or other local priorities.
No, it would have been wasted either way.
0% chance that money would have gone to make the problem get better.
This is an example of illegal grifting in the homeless money. What's bigger is all of the completely legal grifting that's going on with homeless money with nonprofits like the St. Joseph Center in Venice or Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles.
Funded by California taxpayers.
And as mentioned, Cody Holmes was arrested this morning. He remains in custody right now. In fact, he's expected to make a court appearance here in downtown Los Angeles any moment now. As for Stephen Taylor, he was previously arrested.
Now, let's say they convict this guy and he's got to pay back all the money he stole. What about all the American Express points he accumulated with that $2.5 million bill?
Yeah, who gets those?
He was previously arrested and is out of custody tonight. We attempted to reach both men today and their families, but so far we did not hear back. Reporting live, I'm Alex Rozier, NBC4 News.
So there you go. The first two arrests in Bill Essayle's investigation as to where all this homeless money went.
Maybe we could take those Amex points and convert them into airplane tickets and send the homeless people back to where they came from.
There you go.